Yoo-hoo! It's a time! Package from China time, so let's go! Yeah! So we live in a very interesting era when it comes to emulation devices. The mini handheld game console, also known as, I think it's called the GAMINJA, comes with a 3.5-inch IPS display, but most of them will have a resolution of 640 by 480, and making them maybe one of the better devices when it comes for emulation purposes of retro games. But when it comes to the software, here we're having all kinds of different developments. So what really intrigued my, let's say, peak of interest is because this thing has a very interesting form factor. I love the way how they made the edges, but the question remains, is this a very comfortable and quality device? So first of all, we're having a jack out, a USB-C out over here, the on-off switch and the reset button. And here we're finding a micro SD card, and most of them will have a non-brand, and this is an issue because these things get corrupted fairly easy. So I always recommend making a backup of your SD cards, and let's try to put it back in. Hello. There we go. So when it comes to configuration, this is maybe not my favorite overall, let's say, configuration when it comes to the buttons, because I'm a D-pad gamer, so I personally always love to have the D-pad over here. However, the D-pad, I must say, beside the positioning, it feels quite nice when it comes to that. And why is this so nice? So the form factor is very flat when it comes to that, but it does have like a very nice travel and the touch itself. But overall, let's also do a little bit of a chit-chat about how does it play for fighting games and beat 'em ups. The feel of the D-pad is so interesting. You can navigate, you can do moves. So we do have two joysticks for the people who want to play two joystick based games. So the joysticks are feeling quite nice, but don't have the click. So they're not similar to the Nintendo Switch, and they're not like high quality ones, because we cannot really expect it when it comes to, let's say, these brands and these, let's say, low price-based devices. So the A, B, X, Y button, they have like an amazing feel. I always love this wicked test where I'm going to be just rubbing my thumb around it. And the reason why, because I just wanted to feel how they are when it comes to the travel, the wiggle to it, but also when it comes to the design itself. And they have like an amazing feel. Over here having like a general hotkey setting over here, select and start, and volume control at the side, and at the back we're finding the 4 shoulder buttons, and they made a very interesting design. And I mean, particularly when it comes to the way how it is being placed, when you're going to be holding it, they are quite okay and very easy to actually access. So the overall design of the device is quite nice. But let's power it on and let's take a close look also to the display, the menu and everything else. At the front we're having this tiny speaker, and I must say that it sounds quite good for a single mono speaker. I love these soundtracks, by the way. But when it comes to the software, this is something different, where we don't have the same Pandora's box menu or something else like emulation. This is running on something completely different. So let's take a close look at the button configuration. So A is actually A, okay, that's fine. So we have in language, the button tune setting. I can tell you, this is the device with the most horrible sound effects ever. Like seriously, like this is the sound effect. It's absolutely, oh man, this is some completely like horrible sound. So mute, I'm very glad they implemented that. Display, we can adjust the brightness, and I can tell you the display looks absolutely great. Sleep can be turned on and off, and having only 5 minutes and 30 minutes. So that's kind of interesting, but there's nothing much to see actually with settings. Download, here you can update the firmware if you want to. The games, so what kind of platforms, we're having 8-bit, 16-bit, handhelds, all the way up to PlayStation 1. So it's quite limited when you're looking at different devices that we have seen before. It's also kind of a little bit messy, so we're having the all list over here. You can see the naming. It's quite basic when it comes to that. Arcade. Let's try, let's say, Neo Geo Pocket. We do have a tiny screenshot over there. So what we can do is pressing R1 for scanning, and we can put it in the collection. So that's absolutely awesome. And here we can search for the game. So let's see if there's a Sonic game in here. Nope, there's no Sonic game in here. For Neo Geo Pocket, there isn't a Sonic game. And then of course the collection that we have saved. So when it comes to the interface part, this is super basic. But let's start off with some PC Engine, an absolutely amazing system. And what I find really appealing of this handheld is this beautiful display, but also when it comes to the audio. The audio quality is just great, and I love they're using the front-facing speaker. You can just hear the sound effects of the high score. Everything is very clear and crisp. Not even to the point, sometimes you have these, let's say, very annoying high-pitched speakers, but that's not the case. So what you can do is make a quick save over here. Let's see if you can make a quick save within certain buttons. Always like a question how you need to go into the menu and how does it work. Normally you're pressing A, but that's not the case over here. But it's kind of cool. So what you can do is make a quick load, quick save. You can see you can also use the button over here, select the start, and these are the same. So let's go to the read mode. At this point you can just fairly easy read and save. So the way how this works is quite nice. You can switch out the controller settings if you want to, continue the game and exit. And that's it. Next up, Neo Geo Pocket, but yeah, that's not Neo Geo Pocket. This is actually just Neo Geo Arcade. So they completely already messed it up when it comes to the listing itself. So this we're getting with the emulation performance of the Neo Geo part. A lot of glitching going on, and that's quite unfortunate. So this is meaning that they completely messed it up when it comes to the emulator settings, and there was no way of fixing it, updating. We can maybe update the system itself, fixing a lot of the issues. The feel of the D-pad is so interesting. You can navigate, you can do moves. But due to the positioning of the analog stick, I am more a fan of using just the analog stick now. But the D-pad is great. So let's see. I do have like a hit or miss situation. I think this is just like to do, I need to get used to the D-pad itself. The feel and touch itself, the D-pad is great. So when it comes to emulation, they completely messed that part up. So that is quite unfortunate. So let's go to the Adventure Island of the NES. So one of the things I want to see, how is the screen tearing go on? Ooh. You can hear the audio that it did struggle. Okay, so they implemented turbo, so that's good. So recently I noticed that there was a modification version with Sonic and the Adventure Island. That was such a cool game. So far so good. I don't notice any weird thing going on when it comes to screen tearing. So when it comes to NES part, so this runs quite good. Let's see how the Game Boy Classic will work on this. I love these devices for playing some Game Boy games because of the resolution of the screen. Well, I think it's not perfect. It looks just great. And great overall emulation performance for playing these old school games. No screen tearing, weird shenanigans and other stuff. Don't have the idea that they implemented some extra filters. It's always quite difficult to tell in these tiny displays. But also here, everything have the same menu when it comes to making a quick load and quick save. Okay, so I wanted to check out the search function. So let's see how this works. So entering Sonic. I'm guessing I need to press start. No. Need to press B. No. That's one of the things I hate about these things. Is like, how does this freaking thing? Oh, we need to press R1. No. Oh, that's how it works. So you need to put in the name and using the R1 for switching. Okay. And they did mess it up with different kind of versions. So at this point we can just boot it up. And we can start up with some Sonic Advance. Yeah. So when it comes to playing some Game Boy Advance, normally if you have like the perfect resolution compared with the Game Boy, I think you need to have like two black bars on top and the bottom part. But this is not going to be happening with this because they're just having implemented full screen with every game. No screen tearing so far. And we have no sound issues or delays. The audio sounds, in my opinion, slightly off, but it can be me. Quality wise, this is just running great. And out of box emulation seems to be working just fine. Woohoo! The major problem I'm having with this device is just the naming of the files. You can see this is one massive, like I say, problem. You do have a screenshot so we can actually see what it is. But if you want to play a game, this is going to be a freaking nightmare. Like, who came up with this? And this is one of those parts they completely mess up all the freaking time. But let's see how the over emulation is of some Sega Genesis. Everything seems to be working fine. Let's see where they mapped all of the buttons. Okay, so the button mapping is correct. So that's it. Like when it comes to emulation of some 8-bit, 16-bit, that seems to be working all fine. So this is just amazing. But let's move on to the Super Famicom. Let's see how that sounds. Just wanted to see how the D-pad responds for playing shmups, but also it's the same for beat 'em ups. The D-pad is not the best D-pad out there, that is one thing. If you want to do a little bit different directions, you see that I do struggle. So the D-pad making these games absolutely unplayable. But it seems to be that overall emulation performance seems to be working just fine. But I don't want to give up on some Neo Geo, because I just wanted to check out how this will work in the end. So far, this game seems to be working fine. Cool. They also implemented the bosses. So R35 R36 is such a difficult game to emulate on some of the devices, so let's see how they set up the emulator. Oh, so far so good. So where we had problems with the Breaker Revenge game, we don't have any problem when it comes to Art of Fighting. Okay, so that's good. And let's see what they did with the right joystick. Did they map it to the... Oh yeah, they mapped it with the... let's say the ABXY. There's a common problem with these things. So when it comes to emulation performance, yeah, it's a hit or miss. So what is interesting that we do have double lists of, like say, Sega Genesis games, and now we do have the option to actually search for my favorite game, because they did put the naming right in here. Okay, so we can actually boot up some Street of Rage 2. Okay, that's cool. And let's see how this actually works. Would be cool to add some, let's say, homebrew or hacked version, because we have so many cool ones of their, let's say, collections of the community. But so far so good. Ooh, that sounds kind of weird. But I think it has to do with the way how the emulator is set up. But we do have some amazing, or sometimes a little bit too pitch of a high. The overall quality of the gameplay seems to be working fine. Okay, for playing beat 'em ups. Oh, it's not bad at all. So where this is not, in my opinion, perfect, and you hear some weird things with the audio, but that's to do with like maybe the speaker or in combination of the emulator you're choosing. But besides that, yeah, emulation performance itself seems to be working just fine when it comes to the graphical part. But let's take a close look in the controls and everything. So emulation performance-wise seems to be working just fine. Okay. So also here we have this problem that they mapped the buttons to the right joystick, meaning that the dual joystick games will not work like they're supposed to be. But so far so good. So when it comes to the PlayStation 1 part, we can actually play some games. And performance wise and loading wise, everything is just great, and I don't notice any problems there. However, we cannot do any modification. And wait, what did I do? Did I just mess it up? Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. What the heck? Brain fart. But let's take a close look at some PlayStation 1 overall emulation, and so far so good, I can tell. That is how I feel in the morning. Yep. I think this is the most funniest like shmup I have ever played. Sexy Parodius. It's a combination of many different elements with some amazing soundtracks. I can't remember that I've played this game for the first time. It was such a fun experience where I love shmups. I didn't have like a great overall experience with Gradius, but oh yeah, I put them on automatically like upgrading. I love that. So I just need to shoot. Super convenient. And I wish I had like a little bit more speed. Man, I can't stop playing this. There we go. So if you want to play a shmup and you have a bad day, just play Sexy Parodius. This is such a funny game. I finally found the tool. We have shut down the device itself. This fits perfectly. So let's open it up and let's see what we're finding in the inside and stuff like, can we replace the battery to begin with? Okay, so we can remove this screw. We need like a very tiny M-bus. So if you need to do a little bit of maintenance of this device, let's say the battery has been, let's say, completely wore out and you need to replace it. Can we replace it, or can we also replace some parts of the device itself? Yep, we're going to be breaking the seal. Don't you love it when they're going to be putting all kinds of stickers on them? They make no sense whatsoever. So let's remove this SD card to be safe. And let's be very careful. Okay, so let's peek in the inside. So maintenance wise, well, the battery doesn't get really hot. So let's remove that. Okay. Next up, let's do a quick overview of this. So I must say the way how they constructed this is great. So first of all, if you're having some Joy-Con drifting or whatsoever, you have problems, you can replace them. If you can even find the joysticks, of course, but you can just remove them fairly easy by removing the ribbon cord or the ribbon cable. Next up, we're having over here the battery that can be just plugged out. You can see over here the 3000 milliamp battery in the inside. You just put them with some double-sided tape. And what is kind of interesting that they put a lot of blob and stuff over here. I have no idea what's going on over here, why they put all of these grease on. That is kind of weird. It looks like a kind of a glue. Well, let's clean it up. Or was the idea to put something of a cooling element on it or what? But after cleaning up, I realized there was nothing on there. Maybe it was due to the process of, let's say, scraping all of the details of the chip. But that's maybe where the residue was still on there. But besides that, cleaning it up, it doesn't matter. There is no information here. I think we're lucky that the display seems to be working fine, because if you're looking at the way how they assembled it, oh boy, this is absolutely a great start for having a disaster and problems with your display when you're seeing the ribbon cable. But maybe that's me. However, if you're going to be looking at the construction itself, it's not bad at all, and if you need to do a little bit of maintenance, even if you need to replace one of those micro switches, it is a possibility if you have the certain knowledge. But if you wonder what happens if you're going to be booting up without an SD card, you're going to be having the message. And this is an issue. I mean, in particular, when your SD card is getting corrupted or something happened with it, you will have an issue and a big problem, because also the firmware is partially on, let's say, or fully on the SD card. And yeah, when these devices getting out of stock or nowhere to be found and there's no firmware, you just have an amazing looking brick. So inside the box, we're also having a USB cable, some wipes, the toilet paper metal, and we're having a nice screen protector. Yep, a very thick one. So they call them the glass screen protector when they say that they're going to be like Gorilla Glass of some kind, and the metal is just a basic explanation about everything, how it works. However, when you're going to be looking into this product, this is a very basic product when it comes to the software itself, and very limited. Is it a bad thing? No, I think it's not always a very bad thing, because if you just want to have something that is easy to actually use, this thing has a lot of potential, where there's still a lot of kinks in the cable when it comes to, let's say, the naming and everything else. Let me know in the comments what do you think of a device like this. I paid, I think it's under $40, but we do have so many different options now. There are so much better and better support with firmware, because I think there is going to be where this thing is going to be failing in the future. Thank you all for watching, and it would be great to see you in the next video. But as making this video, the SD card is starting to fail. You can just get just a great example. When you're going to be into the PlayStation 1 list, I already scrolled a couple of times through it, but getting through it now, it just freezes. And just resets back to the menu itself. And this is one of the biggest problems I'm having when it comes to these freaking SD cards. There's also a reason why these things are completely garbage in the end.